On the 9th of November 1940, fire savaged the central and southeastern wing of Castle Howard. The destruction is still evident today as the recovery continues, but this moment also beckoned in an era of finding new ways of rebuilding the past. Dr. Christopher Ridgway, curator at Castle Howard for 40 years, explained more. So, Dr. Chris, tell me about where we are now, because this is
This is the center of the house. It's the Great Hall with the crowning dome on top, which is the great architectural signature about Castle Howard. This is the second version, if you like. I mean, the original one built in 1699, but lost in 1940, and then Nick Howard's father, George Howard, rebuilt the dome in 1960.
Wow, incredible. So with the dome being lost for 20 years, how many other rooms were lost in the house,
the
castle?
Terrible morning on the 9th of November 1940, you've got a tally of about 20 rooms that are destroyed on 3 levels, basement, principal and upper.
Right.
Sections of the roof and the dome. And to date, we have restored fully, really fully, 4 of those rooms. The central block has been re-roofed and obviously the dome rebuilt. There's been consolidation work in the interiors, but there is more to do, which will be done.
So that was going to be my next question. Will those rooms that haven't been finished, and of course this is time and lots of money and time and lots of money, and I can say that over and over again, but for those remaining, about 16 rooms, there is a plan for them to eventually be
There
rebuilt.
is. We've got one downstairs which we're on the cusp of kind of restoring as to an early 18th century drawing room.
Fantastic.
We have other areas that require much, much more work and have different options about what we do with them, and I can show you that when we go into the older burnt out wing.
Wow, I mean, that fire in November 1940 was brutal. It's almost hard to fathom how the magnificent central dome was lost and 20 rooms destroyed. When I was walking through these ruins from the fires at these historic houses, I couldn't help but imagine the stories that once held within those walls. So like the lives lived, the secrets kept, and sometimes mysteries that were never solved. And that's actually one of the reasons I've been enjoying a bit of escapism with June's Journey, who, like me, spends a lot of time in historic spaces uncovering the past. But in her case, it's a thrilling 1920s mystery full of glamour, secrets, and surprise twists. It's a beautifully designed hidden object game where you step into June Parker's shoes, a smart, bold woman piecing together the truth behind her sister's death, all the while navigating complicated family dynamics and deeper themes like love, betrayal, and justice. In between scenes, you can decorate your own island retreat and my little slice of Art Deco heaven when I need a break from reality. And the best part, there are new chapters every week, so the story just keeps unfolding. Thanks to June's Journey, who is sponsoring this episode. And if you love storytelling and solving mysteries as much as I do, download it now for free. Just click the link in the description or scan the QR code right here.
This is the shell of the High South. So High South comprised this central saloon with 2-bedroom suites either side. And these were so prestigious that this is where Queen Victoria and Prince Albert stayed when they visited in 1850.
Oh my goodness.
The walls in here, this section, were decorated with these frescoes by Antonio Pellegrini, who also decorated the walls of the hall and the underside of the dome. Of course, all incinerated in 1940. So what you have is the bare stone remains.
The bare stone remains, incredible. I can see though why Queen Victoria and Prince Albert were staying here, because this sensational
view this way, sensational view that way, south over the grounds and then to the villages beyond.
So how did the fire start? That's always intriguing. We hear about these fires in these country houses quite a bit.
Competing stories, because during the Second World War, a girls' school had been evacuated to Castle Howard very common that buildings like this were requisitioned
Yes.
for different purposes. So a girls' school was here. Actually, it was a chimney fire. Chimneys had probably been not as well maintained, and that's what was the likely cause of it. There are some competing stories about an electrical fault, which may or may not have been the case. There's colourful kind of versions that the girls, in a fit of St. Trinian's-like kind of irresponsibility, burnt the house down. Afraid that's not true. No, it's much more prosaic, and chimney fires are kind of unbelievably common in country house fires.
Yes, they are.
Effectively started in the southeast wing. There was a wind blowing that sort of fanned the flames into the centre of the building.
Where we are today. I guess for me, with living in a historic house myself, many times when you have these fires and they are so significant, you almost think of just giving up. Because the rebuild is so costly.
The rebuild is horrific. I mean, it's daunting. Here you have to layer in another very difficult factor. This is in the middle of the war, and of the 3 sons in the family, 2 are to die in the war. So Nick's father, who is the middle son, returns from the Far East, never expecting to inherit Castle Howard. He does, but it's partially wrecked. And as you say, a lot of people would have said no.
Yes, right.
But the girls' school stayed here for a few more years. There were attempts for them to try and buy the building. But Nick's father makes the decision at the end of the 1940s that he wants to move back in.
Right.
To be his family home. He will raise his family here. And then, really crucially, in 1952, he makes this decision amongst the vanguard of country house owners to open to the public in the way that we understand it today.
Yeah.
So this is a great survivor. I mean, that's the great thing. It's both the house and the family are joint survivors, and they both need each other.
Yeah. As we explored the area of the house which had been consumed by the fire, we reached the rooms which are being saved for future generations.
This is the room that is on the cusp of being restored back to a tapestry drawing room and recreate a historic interior here. Big challenge, got to find a new fireplace, build a new fireplace that's in keeping with that early 18th century feel for this room. We have the tapestries which are being restored at the moment, so that's great, but we've got to put all the panelling back into the room.
Yes, you have to go. So can I ask about the tapestries? Yeah. When the fire happened in here, were the tapestries completely destroyed?
No. What happened here, that this room had so many rooms have gone through different iterations over time.
Right.
So at the time of the fire, the tapestries were not in this room. And at the time of the fire, because the girls' school was here, fortunately, a lot of stuff was away in store. Having said that, quite a lot of stuff wasn't. Big fixtures like heavy mirrors and sculptures couldn't be moved, and fixture paintings, all of those perished in the fire. I mean, a long list of paintings lost, really tragic.
Right, yes,
but
yes.
There have been survivors and losses, and it's a question of kind of putting back together what we can and recreating this room. And so that means you will have an uninterrupted suite of rooms here. At the moment, you come from that room, which is recreated after the fire, to this shell back to the historic interiors. So we'll remove this kind of hiatus and put it back with the rest of the house.
How fantastic. So again, you just spoke about the room in front of me, that was recreated after the fire.
That was recreated in a very special way. It was rebuilt, the shell was rebuilt for the set for Brideshead Revisited by Granada TV.
Oh my goodness. So this, again, just so in my mind's eye, this room very much looked like this.
Exactly like that.
So TV comes in,
TV comes in, late 70s, films Brideshead here for us, a really, significant moment in the history of Castle Howard.
Yes.
Catapults us to global fame.
Yes. So this is an opportunity for these historic houses to be the location, the set. And that of course, was a new way of bringing in income to support.
Income and fame and reputation.
Yeah.
And clearly Brideshead is very important because the story of Brideshead is a love affair with a house. And it's a house in the novel that has a dome, so we fit the bill.
Yes.
And Evelyn Waugh did visit Castle Howard in the 30s. He didn't have Castle Howard explicitly in mind as a model for Brideshead, but architecturally in all sorts of ways there are affinities between fictional and real building.
So this room, I'm just curious, when they decided to restore this room, why was that? Why this room? Because of the view out to there?
It's because you've got the view back into the Great Hall, you've got the view and the steps down into the gardens. And you've got, for a TV company, you've got the best of both worlds. You've got, as it were, an authentic set all around you, but you've got a shell in which you can build your own set.
Yes.
And this is largely what it looked like in the production, except these murals were then replaced. So in the TV version, this is where Jeremy Irons is executing his murals for the Marchmain family. Those are replaced by these pictures commissioned from the New Zealand artist Felix Kelly by Nick's father, George Howard, post-production. So this doesn't recreate anything that was like here before. This is a new iteration of this room, post-fire, late 20th century, in keeping with the fact that this house is organic. It evolves all the time.
That's right. Castle Howard has risen like a phoenix from the ashes. So much has been restored over the past 80 years or so. But Dr. Chris Ridgway promised to show me a hidden area which was ravaged by the fire and is still to be restored. Dr. Chris, this is, I mean, on the one hand, incredible to see this, but on the other hand, you can't help but feeling sort of a bit of sadness, you know.
You are here. I mean, this is the basement of the southeast wing of the house. So this is the area in which the fire broke out in 1940 and then swept through into the body of the house. And so you go into these rooms here. Now these would have been...
Yeah, what would these rooms have been?
These were domestics rooms in the 19th century. So this was the housekeeper's room originally.
Okay.
And then through there you've even got the butler's pantry, so that would have been the silver safe.
Oh,
so
yes.
The great big iron door would have protected the interior. That's why those ceramic tiles are actually still unscathed by the fire.
And was the silver in there?
Not in the time of the war, no. But very often in houses that did catch fire, the silver survived because it was in the strong room. That was able to kind of protect it. Yeah,
of course. So. Just walking through here, this fire was so extensive.
Very extensive, yeah. I mean, this is just the basement level.
So these were domestic rooms and used, during the fire, used?
Well, the whole of the building had been institutionalized by the school during the fire. So I don't think these were classrooms or dormitories as such, but they would have been maybe for storage areas or things like that. And here, for example, in this space, up there is roughly where the fire began. Now you can't tell that from now because a lot of things have lost, and it was somewhere around there that the chimney flue was that started the fire. And that's not there today. You've got this cavernous shell, some post-fire consolidation with brickwork and concrete lintels just to stabilize the structure, stop it falling down.
Yes.
And this wooden staircase is just for when we briefly had this open as a sort of standalone exhibition wing. But more to do in this area, not least of all with the roof, because the roof is still a temporary roof.
I can see that. Oh, I've just spotted that. It is a temporary
So you're never going to do anything until you've got a solid roof on top.
Right. And these windows right here, are they temporary windows, structures?
They are windows that were put in post-fire. So actually, immediately after the fire, all the windows had been burnt out and the glass shattered.
Right.
So those new sash windows in the 40s, 50s would have gone in just to kind of, again, protect the area from the elements. But in time, those are going to have to be replaced properly. Yeah, of course. I mean, and nothing here really is kind of permanent in the sense that we've got to sort of start from scratch when we come to redoing this area.
Yes.
And not least of all this end room, which is again another cavernous space.
Oh, look at this. Oh my goodness, and the light is fantastic. I
think for me, this is one of the most poignant spaces because the floor, which is lost, that reveals the room above, known as the Little Cabinet. This east-facing room, so beautiful morning light in here, decorated ceiling, all lost. No, I mean, as tragic as the other historic interiors lost, but there's something particularly gaunt about this spectacle here today. And again, as a space, I think because it's connection with the outside and the gardens, maybe there are kind of possibilities in here temporarily, but it's part of that list of things to do. I think the crucial thing to realise is that since the fire, we have spent an awful lot of money and time on restoring the house, the structures and the gardens. I mean, if you add it up in today's values, we've probably spent £40 million over the years.
Right.
You look at what's outstanding, that's another 50, 60 million.
Yes.
But you know what? We've accomplished that much.
Right.
It's the old glass half empty, half full.
Right. But it's also being able to, I think, continue to tell the story, because this project, as you said, is, this fire happened in 1940. We're now in 2023, and it's been, as you said, £40 million or whatever been spent to get to where you've got to today.
You might look at this space and you think this is dead. Actually, this is a living house. It's all the time, it's evolving, it's moving forward, it's not standing still, it's not crumbling. It takes an awful lot of effort, dedication and money to do that. But the wherewithal, the will is there. That's the critical thing.
Yes. For me, I think Castle Howard, of course, it's famous. I'm going to use that word. It is world renowned. But what's extraordinary about coming here is that as a visitor, each time I come, I'm going to see something different if I come every year. And it's not just a new exhibition. I can start to see really how the house is evolving because of the fire, with these ongoing projects all of the time.
The fire presents you with a whole lot of opportunities. Of course, there are massive challenges, but there are opportunities to restore and refresh the building, refresh the stories, the narratives, because this is a building that's a story house as much as a treasure house.
Yes.
And it kind of confirms that evolutionary dynamic, so that rooms are not necessarily put back to how they were before. The irony being that the more you restore, the less of the fire is visible, but it's always going to be part of our story.
Yes.
And yes, you're right, come back in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, we might have restored this bit. And that's happened in my time here. The lakes have been all restored and recovered, other parts of the estate, other parts of the building. It's
the stories that can be told. So the next project is this. We're working on this. We're with the architects, and even sharing that story that this will be completely transformed in 2 years' time, 5 years' time.
Exactly.
Come back.
There's an endless story to be told about it.
It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Come on in.
Ooh, I didn't see this the last time. I'm in the private drawing room, is that right?
You are in the private, the yellow drawing room.
Yellow drawing room.
Okay, couple of questions. Wow.
That's me when I was 18. So my father had me painted by Howard Morgan because he thought I was going to leave him and marry Torquil when I was 18, 19. And then when we finally got married 10 years later, he was so happy that I think he just gave me the picture.
But he did insist that's exactly where it should hang. And if we didn't want to hang it there, he wasn't going to give it to us.
But your outfit's fantastic.
It's amazing.
As well.
It's a red silk skirt with embroidery all over it. It's stunning, Chinese silk.
You still got it?
I've still got it. I don't think it fits anymore. So.
Okay, so can I grab a spot there then?
Yes, on Torquil's mother's tapestry stool.
It's quite beautiful.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's
so
amazing.
Torquil's mother was a fantastic tapist, I don't know what the word is. So we had a really bad fire in the 70s.
Yeah, so tell me
And then
about
after that, there was really no money to spend anywhere. So she was amazing at getting hold of the tapestries and actually fixing them herself.
Incredible. So tell me a little bit about that fire, because that sort of made international news when that happened.
Yeah, it was a big one. So it was the 5th of November, 1975.
5th of November.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which to a British person is a big day.
Is a big date.
Guy Fawkes,
right.
yeah. Guy Fawkes.
But it happened 5th of November.
It started probably at sort of 4, 5 o'clock, and it was an electrical fault in a cupboard upstairs. And it went up a void where all the fire hydrants, the fire hoses go up, and ended up on the top floor of the castle, and burnt the top floor. But the real damage was the fire, but the real damage was the water they put on top of it, to put it out, which then came down through all the ceilings, and
Oh my gosh.
so it was a big event, and the town turned up to help take the things out.
Because was somebody staying in the castle at the time?
Yeah, so it was my mother and myself.
Oh,
And you were 5?
I was seven.
Okay.
so you remember this?
No, I do, yeah, very much so. I kind of sort of remember being sort of taken out of the house pretty quickly. There was a lot going on. My father was away on business, but I remember being at the town bonfire, and all the people were there. Instead of people looking at the bonfire and the fireworks display, they were looking at the castle, which was just fully ablaze.
Oh my gosh.
And it was pretty.
Yeah,
I mean,
that is-
I don't remember the nitty gritty
Right,
bits and
of
pieces
course.
of it, but there were explosions going on in the castle, and everyone was watching that because it was dark in the evening, and,
Right.
and that was the biggest bonfire around.
Wow.
But the town were amazing. So the town basically all ran up and people were chucking Gainsboroughs and tapestries and, beautiful bits of furniture. People were so brave.
You see pictures of people walking out into the car park at the front with sort of pictures, books, furniture.
Right.
No, I mean they were amazing. And if it wasn't for all their help,
Right.
we would have lost a lot more.
Yeah. No, of
Or a
course.
lot
of
more would
course.
have been very badly damaged.
Right. So that was the top floor, and then of course the water damage came through. So then what was the restoration process? Like, when did that begin? So you had to move out of the castle?
So we moved out of the castle. I remember, straight after going to go and stay with my grandparents on Loch Lomond.
Right.
And
About
that
an
was-
hour away from.
Yeah, so that was definitely for a period of months. I went to the local school there. Then we moved back into a cottage up one of the glens,
Okay.
and we were there for probably a year or so.
Right.
And then we actually moved back into the basement of the castle.
Oh my
And we lived in the basement for a couple of years. So
Yeah.
it took about 5 years to restore it.
Of course.
And it was a huge project.
What about archives? Were you, because where we are at Mapperton, we hold the archives in the main house, in the Muniment room. Were the archives saved? Were they?
Yeah, they weren't. The archives, were all stored in the castle. They were all saved. Again, a lot of them were damaged.
Right.
And then after the fire, they moved up to some libraries that we had constructed on the top floor. And then my wife and I did a sort of restoration stroke sort of install central heating program sort of 15 years ago.
Okay.
And then we moved the archives then from the top floor of the castle to a sort of purpose-built archive at the estate office, which they now housed and looked after, temperature controlled, humidity controlled.
All of that.
The things that the way they should be looked after.
To see Inverara gleaming across the loch today, it's hard to imagine that devastating night in November 1975, when flames ripped through the upper levels of the castle so savagely, it seemed all was lost. But with the will and determination of the family and community, the castle was saved.
So go back to 5th of November 1975, and
Oh my goodness.
and
So what happened exactly? I
These-
mean, this is remnants from the fire,
that's
isn't it?
fine. That's fine. This is all fire damage. Wow. So these are water hydrants that come from a loch up on one of the hills,
Okay.
and this is pressurized from the ground floor to the top floor.
Okay.
And the fire started in my mother's clothes wardrobe, walk-in wardrobe,
Behind here.
behind there, and then went up this void and took out the top floor of the castle. So all that scorching and soot is
Is from it.
from the fire.
Incredible.
If it's not broken,
Yeah, no.
make it work.
Exactly. No, and it tells a story.
It does,
I
very
mean, that's
much
what's
so.
so brilliant. I can come in here and see this, and you can tell me the
So
story.
the void, it's just the height where the hydrant, it's all the heat and the smoke
Yeah.
out there.
Oh yeah. I can see it. Wow. Oh my
Set fire
goodness.
to the roof.
So it just went whoosh.
Just went whoosh.
But what started the fire?
Electrical fault.
Electric fault.
Old
Right.
wiring.
Old wiring. Right. Usually is the case.
So anyway, we'll head up to the attic. Anyway, so come in here. This takes us up to the top floor of the castle.
Wow. Okay, so can I ask, this staircase, this would have been Used for who?
These are the old servant staircases, and they start
What?
on the basement of the castle, and there's a door on each floor.
No.
So you could obviously appear with whatever you needed at the time, or so you wouldn't have to use the main staircases and stuff like that, and be with the guests or
Right.
the then Duke. So you just disappear up these spiral staircases all the way up to the top.
All the way up to the top.
In 1953, when the castle was opened,
Right.
my grandmother and step-grandmother had about 50 staff living in the castle, and they were all living on this floor. So actually, the whole of the top floor was bedrooms, staff quarters,
50
and they
staff.
would use these stairs. And then in the fire there was obviously lots of damaged stuff, and we didn't know what to do with it, where to put it. So it just sits in these rooms under wraps. Someday somebody will want something, will look for something.
Incredible. Okay, so tell me a little bit more. We've just looked where the fire started, really from your mother's closet because of an electrical fault. Came through and then went
straight up, went all the way around the whole of the top floor of the castle.
And this is where bedrooms were.
And this was all staff bedrooms. And then you've seen you saw the same situation with Notre Dame in Paris.
Yes.
When they want to go and repair old buildings like this, there is a shortage of what you'd call seasoned oak.
Right.
To make the beams and stuff to hold these big houses up. So actually, because there was none at the time, my father put in a steel roof.
Okay.
So actually, fingers crossed, it's done a very good job. It's going to be here for a long time. We don't have the same problems that we'd have, had we got a wooden roof.
Exactly. And as the fire destroyed, obviously the bedrooms that were up here, of course we don't have 50 staff anymore living here at all. It's just our families. But you just use this as storage.
So we use it as storage.
Yeah, which is great.
Storage. This was jam-packed full of stuff, during COVID. And my wife got up here and we carted all, a lot of the rubbish out and sorted lots of stuff out.
Oh my gosh.
But the archives are slowly being taken away bit by bit to be taken over to the office so they can go through them.
No. This is incredible.
But if you can't find something, or there's a bit of something missing, you tend to look up in these rooms and you'll find,
But look at this screen.
But, that's all,
that's all from the fire.
All fire damaged.
Look at that. And it's
bits of chairs that are part of them are burnt, and then you can suddenly find another chair, and you can restore it by putting the two together.
Lots of
brown
this is
furniture,
lots of brown furniture. Let's go. We like brown furniture. We just have too much of it. I think.
Old picture frames.
Look at this.
One day maybe when I'm painted, I want a big picture frame.
Are you not painted yet?
I haven't been done yet. No.
It's okay. I'm in the same boat. I haven't been painted either.
But then, there's so much of this sort of furniture that, a lot of it was custom made for the castle, but it just, it doesn't work anymore.
Well, and also, do you think the difference is because the castle is really open up to the public, you've got to be careful on how you curate kind of what goes in each room?
Pre-1975, we would have been able to have a rotation of pictures and furniture.
Right.
Post-1975, what you see is what we've got.
Right.
So a lot of storage would have been up here.
Yeah, yeah.
But of course, it is no longer. So.
Yeah. The archives at Inverara are now held in a purpose-built, temperature-controlled location away from the castle itself. I couldn't wait to meet archivist Alison Diamond again to hear more about how the archives were saved from the fire. Hello.
Hi, nice to see you.
Nice to see you again. This is my dream space. Alison, I mean, the last time I saw you was, again, about 5 years ago, and we were looking through some archives here as well, but it's all coming back to me about what a brilliant space this is.
It is, it's fabulous. So this was all originally in the castle.
Up at the top, is that right? They were stored.
They were in the basement originally.
Right.
Which is actually what saved them, because when the fire came, it was the roof that went.
Yes.
So it was, if the archive had been in the roof, they would have gone too.
Yes,
but luckily, they were down in the vaults.
Okay.
So we do have some pictures
Do you?
to have a look. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And this is the archives having been rescued. Now, I'm not quite sure where they are in this picture.
Okay.
It could be under the temporary roof, or that might be one of the estate buildings out at the Moatlands.
Okay. So they were able to, luckily they were in the basement, as you said.
So some things got damaged by water and smoke. In fact, some of them are still quite black if you look at them.
Oh my goodness.
That is still there. But they did manage to rescue quite a lot.
Right,
So it is amazing how much we have given.
Incredible, but just to see them all lying out, just waiting to be looked at to see what the damage was. And oh my goodness, so this...
Yeah, so this is the fire while it's burning.
Oh,
so
gosh, it gives you chills.
And these are some of the rescue photos.
And this looks like it's sort of in the wee mornings or late because it's dark. So
they're actually probably, the firemen will still be on site.
Right.
But they were just moving things out as quickly as possible. And these are some of the items just sort of waiting to be rescued.
But also look at the
fire hoses.
The fire hoses right there.
And here we've got sort of pictures coming out.
You've got the gilt frames, the pictures, the sofas. Look at they're hoisting up a couple of the chairs, and again, middle of the night.
Mm-hmm. And obviously it carries on into the morning.
Into the morning. They're still carrying things out.
So these are all from that period, just after the fire. And I presume that they're numbered, so I presume these were evidence of damage and probably the start of drawing up the plans to work out
how
to rebuild.
So that's why they put such big numbers on them.
So you would need to know, because obviously every sort of little window would probably look very similar, particularly when everything was burnt down around it.
Wow.
So.
Oh my goodness. And I was just walking up across these attics with Torquil, looking at, which is, now it's used for storage. But this is a serious fire.
It is. There was not much roof left.
To see these photographs, it's amazing that so much was salvaged from the flames.
Details of the royals' stay at Blair, together with centuries of historic family documents, are kept secure in the archives of the castle. Sarah and I met archivist Karen Guthrie, and Sarah shared a chilling moment in the recent history of the castle.
Wow. There you go. This area of the castle, known as the clock tower, clocks above us, was burnt down in 2011. There was a fire. Under here used to be where the old wood chip boiler was working.
Yes.
And all the wood chip and the auger and the oil boiler to back it up. And the flue went up the tower.
Yes.
And it overheated and caught light to the rafters. And it was so high up, the heat for quite a long time didn't set off an alarm. And in fact, somebody saw it, luckily, because it was about 8 o'clock at night. Somebody who lives over there saw it. And then my dog was very anxious.
Right.
When I went to let him out, I saw these flames leaping out. Terrible.
How long did it take to put out the fire, and did the fire spread, or was it contained?
Amazingly, unfortunately, was contained in the area of the boiler below and the clock tower. When we came here, my husband absolutely insisted on putting on fire doors everywhere. He said that's very vulnerable, that area. And thank God they'd been installed, and it did keep the fire into just this area. And you know, the archives in those days were stored up at the other end of the castle.
Well, that was going to be my next question, because here I am in the archive room and I was thinking, oh dear, the archives, but they were stored, okay, in a different location.
Fortunately.
Oh, thank goodness. When you rebuilt this, how long did it take to rebuild? Because I know, you know, these things take such time, especially at these historic houses.
It wasn't too bad. I think we obviously had to clear everything with the insurance, but I think it was about just over a year before we had this up and running.
And during that period, is that when you decided to move the archives in here and make this the new archive space? How did that come to be?
Yes, we decided immediately that any boiler we had in future was not going to be in the castle. It would be out in an outbuilding. Obvious decision. And then so then obviously, what are we going to do with this? And we had all sorts of thoughts, but I'd always been nervous of the archives where they were before, because there was a flat above them, a domestic flat above them. And I thought it only takes someone to have a, you know, the bath or overflow or leaking pipe.
Yes.
And things wouldn't have been very good. So we just thought, right, a purpose-built archive, a visitor's room where we are now, you know, properly temperature controlled.
Yes, I can feel that. I can feel the temperature right when I walked in.
And actually, I think it was a good decision.
Yeah. No, brilliant.
Again, June's Journey, it's free to play, so just click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to get started today.